Okay, this is part one of how to do a diabetic setup. This is your intake, and all this should be located in a folder that you have that has all of your ACHC paperwork in there. When the patient comes in and brings you a prescription, that can be a pad script, or the doctor can also call it in or fax it in. When the patient brings you that, or you already have it, you're going to fill out all these papers. The first is this is the intake. The employee is going to fill out everything on here. This first section is the patient information. You're going to need their first and last name, address, phone number, height, weight, date of birth, male or female, social security, emergency contacts, and by the emergency contact you're going to put their relationship to the patient and that person's phone number. Next is the doctor information. Most of this you will find in your computer. If you don't have it in your computer, you can look it up on the NPI website. But you need the doctor's name, their address, phone number, their UPIN number if they have one, diagnosis information, and also their NPI number. This next section is the insurance. And if the patient has Medicare, you're going to put their Medicare number here. If they have secondary insurance, that number will go here, and you'll need the insurance name and address, the policy number, group number, and phone number. And it's always best if you contact these insurance companies first to make sure that the patient is covered before you give their supplies to them. And you also need to make a copy of their insurance cards. The next section, this is what you're going to use mostly for billing. All that the clerk is going to do when they're doing the initial intake is filling out the quantity and the name of the equipment that you're giving. And the clerk is not going to write anything over here. So we're doing a diabetic setup, so we're going to give the patient a monitor. So I put a quantity of 1 and listed what I gave them. You're going to need the lot number and the serial number, which you can find on the box, and we'll discuss that later, how to find that or where to find that. On the strips, a box of 50 counts as 1 unit. So if you're giving the patient 100 strips, you're going to give them a quantity of 2 for 2 boxes. So then you're going to write your track test strips and the lot number. And then on the Lancets, a box of 100 is 1 unit. So you're going to give a quantity of 1, and of course the name and then the lot number. Now on the intake, the patient has 3 places to sign. There's one here at the bottom, and then one on the back of the white copy. And then the clerk is going to sign their name here, and everything needs to be dated. And the patient is going to receive this yellow copy. So you just tear that off and give that all to the patient. Give the yellow copy to the patient. Okay, next is our waiver of liability. This paper basically is if you think there is a reason that the patient's insurance is not going to cover the item that you're giving them or items, then you would check one of these reasons or write your own reason so that the patient knows that you're saying up front that this service may not be covered. Most of the time your answer is going to be none. We very rarely ever have any reason to mark anything else. And that one the patient has to sign here at the bottom, and it needs to be dated. This is part of your ACHC paperwork. This is the plan of service. This first section is basically patient information. You can get all of this off the top of your intake. Here you're going to check your supplies that you give them, write down your monitor and serial number if you're doing a monitor, strips, lancets, whatever you're giving them, mark it there. If you're doing pin needles or syringes, just write it out here beside it that you're giving that to them. This next section The clerk should be able to fill most of this out. Question number 5, sometimes if the patient doesn't use your pharmacy for their regular medicines, you may not know the answer to that question. So you may have to have the doctor answer that one, but fill everything out on all these papers that you can to save time for the doctor. It makes it less of a hassle for them if you do it yourself. The clerk has to sign here on supplies given by, then your name, the date, and the facility is going to be your pharmacy. And then the patient has to sign here and date it. And then later you'll fax this to the doctor and it will have to be signed by the doctor. Okay, this is the client-patient handout, verification of receipt, client-patient education, and receipt of financial information verification. So in your packet, or this little folder that you're giving the patient, everything on the left side is what the employees have to fill out. Everything on the right side is what we're going to give to the patient. So that has this paper. When the patient signs this paper, that's saying that they received all of these papers. And we'll go over all those in a minute. Patient's name will be written here, and then the patient must sign here, and then the employee, patient's going to sign here, and then the employee will sign and print their names there. All these will be printed places where the patient's name goes. This is the patient side of the folder that you're going to give them. This has the client-patient bill of rights and responsibilities, and you can read over that so you'll know what's in it. TrueTrack information sheets. We've got 3 pages of how to use the monitor and problems for it. Insurance information and the financial information, so the patient can know how much their 20% is going to cost them and if they're going to owe anything else. And you'll need to fill that out and give it to the patient. And we'll also have our pharmacy brochure and a business card. And this whole folder is given to the patient. This is client-patient notes. If there's anything significant that you feel like needs to be in the patient chart, then you write it on here. Most of the time, we just write their name, and we usually don't have anything to go on there. This next page is the client-patient referral form. Most of this information you can get off of your intake. It's all repeat information, but it all needs to be filled out to the best of your ability. And then the clerk has to sign here and date it, and you're going to pick what you're giving them, what glucose meter, the meter type, and the supplies that you gave them. This is the client-patient callback form. It's got the patient's name, telephone number, date of setup, and the equipment that was given. And then this last section will be done at a later date when you're doing your chart audits. You'll go back and call that patient to see if they're having any problems. And the staff member will sign them. This is the client-patient data sheet. You do the patient's name and address, their phone number, put their emergency contact, and then directions to their home. What we do is get on msn.com and go to Maps and put in their address put the pharmacy's address and then the patient's address, and just print a map there. And just put CMAP there. This is the client-patient service agreement. Patient's name and their ID number is their Medicare number or Medicaid number. Basically, this paper authorization means you're giving the patient has given us permission to do this. Assignment of benefits, they're giving us permission to bill their insurance. Release of information, HIPAA, we're not going to share the information. Financial responsibility, patient's responsible for anything the insurance doesn't cover. Return goods, and then client-patient handouts is the folder you're giving, and then if they have a problem, they can call your pharmacy, and then it has to be signed by the patient and the clerk. And this last is the client-patient satisfaction survey, and do this here at the pharmacy. They need to fill that out here so you can have it for your ACH record.